What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm reviewing the brand new Adidas Alphaedge 4D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet and want to see more reviews just like this one. Also make sure to give me a follow on Instagram and on Twitter at @RealSethFowler. But with all that out of the way, let's get into it. For the last couple years, Adidas has really been pushing the envelope when it comes to sneaker innovation. Through their use of materials like Boost and Primeknit, they've really pushed themselves to the forefront of sneaker technologies. And even though they've hit on some really great combinations of materials that have resulted in some really excellent sneakers, that doesn't mean they're going to stop innovating. Hence the introduction of their 3D printed midsole, 4D Futurecraft. Through Adidas' collaboration with a company called Carbon, they've used a technology called digital light synthesis, which is essentially a different kind of 3D printing. And the benefit to this manufacturing technique is that it allows them to create completely customizable midsoles for any user. I did a really deep dive into the 4D technology and how it's created in my 4D Futurecraft review, so if you guys haven't seen that, make sure to check it out by clicking the link at the top of the screen. But it looks like after the success of the 4D Futurecraft, Adidas has decided to take this technology and try it out on a brand new sneaker. That shoe is the Adidas Alphaedge 4D. Jumping right into the upper of the sneaker, Adidas is using a new kind of knit mesh called forged fiber. This material doesn't have the same sort of stretch that Primeknit has, but it definitely doesn't feel bad. It feels more like a cloth or a mesh than an actual knit, and that's fine. It really doesn't feel bad on foot, but it's definitely a little bit thicker than Primeknit. I'm sure there's a reason behind using this material instead of Primeknit, but for a $300 shoe at retail, I would have liked them to use more premium materials. The material comes in this dark neutral gray with flecks of lighter gray throughout. There's also these pieces of cross-woven plastic wire to add durability and structure, and they can be found on the toe and on the midfoot of the sneaker. Moving up the shoe, you've got these TPU panels around the eyelets for added durability, and around the edge of the cutout for the tongue, you've got some fuse overlay. The flat laces come in a pretty standard black, nothing really special there. Continuing up the shoe, you've got a tongue in dark gray mesh with the Adidas 3 stripes in sort of a yellow-green to match the 4D midsole. At first, it may look like you've got a separate tongue, but it's actually connected to a booty construction underneath this upper layer. Around the upper of the ankle, you've got this really thin, black, almost Primeknit feeling ankle collar. It honestly seems pretty similar to what you find on the NMDs, except it does seem to have a little bit more structure and the edges seem to be a little bit sharper. Originally, I was a little bit worried that these little peaks here would dig into my ankle when I was wearing the shoe, but when I actually tried the shoe on and wore it around, I didn't even notice them. Inside the shoe, you've got a black sock liner with pretty much no padding. The good news is though, because the shoe has sort of a sock-like fit, you shouldn't notice it too much. And rounding off the inside of the sneaker, you've got a black faux leather insole with Futurecraft 4D written in white. As for fit, the Adidas Alphaedge 4D does seem to fit true to size. The one problem that you may also remember from my Futurecraft 4D review is that the shoe only comes in full sizes. So if you're a 9.5 or an 11.5, you're kind of out of luck. You're gonna have to go with a full size, unfortunately. And if that does happen to be the case for you, I'd probably suggest going up half a size because around the midfoot, unless you have a really narrow foot, it does seem to be pretty tight. Continuing back on the shoe, you've got more of that dark mesh inner booty. Just below that, you've got a forged fiber heel counter with the Adidas logo and TPU. Moving around to the back of the sneaker, you've got a black pull tab with this sort of chameleon iridescent strip running down the middle. And moving down the shoe, you get to the reason everyone's interested in this sneaker, the 4D midsole. As I mentioned before, this is a 3D printed midsole, and the benefit to that obviously is that in the future they'll be able to customize this midsole to anyone's needs. But as of right now, because of manufacturing constraints and just the sheer cost of this material, they have to only make it in full sizes. If you've never tried the 4D midsole, which wouldn't be a surprise because the shoe is annoyingly limited, it's very soft and flexible to the touch, and actually if you look at it at just the right angle, you can see almost all the way through it. The entire midsole is made up of this sort of diamond-shaped skeletal structure, and the distance between each one of these rods or struts actually varies depending on which part of the shoe you're looking at. So in the heel, the pattern is very widely spread apart, so it's pretty soft, but when you move towards the toe of the sneaker, it's all printed very close together, so it's very stiff and doesn't really offer much in the way of compression. The pattern also changes throughout the shoe, so around the forefoot you have a little bit more support, around the heel you have a little bit of a softer ride, and overall it does feel pretty good. However, don't get your hopes up. It definitely doesn't feel anything like Boost. It's not extremely soft, but it's not uncomfortable. If I'm honest, just from a try-on perspective, if you didn't know this was 4D, you'd probably just think it's just a regular midsole. But if you're interested in seeing a more in-depth comparison between 4D and Boost, I just did a video on that, which you should definitely check out in the link at the top of the screen. Overall, not a bad midsole. It's definitely comfortable, but for 300 bucks, you're pretty much only buying it for the novelty. That'll change in the future when this technology matures a little bit more, but as of right now, it's just kind of a nice to have. And finally, moving to the bottom of the sneaker, you've got this black Continental outsole. As you can tell, unlike the Ultra Boost webbed outsole, there isn't any cut throughs to the midsole so that nothing gets stuck up in the 4D. Overall, the Alphaedge 4D is actually a pretty nice shoe. Aesthetically, I don't think it's anywhere close to the Futurecraft 4D, but I don't think it's a bad looking shoe. It's got this sort of like industrial future vibe to it, which I like, but it's probably not my favorite look. As for comfort, it's actually a pretty comfortable shoe. The upper is really nice on foot. The midsole isn't bad, but it's nothing incredible. But I guess the main takeaway from this review is that this is a $300 sneaker at retail. So if you pride yourself in being an early adopter or like the novelty of this 3D printed midsole, I'd say go for it, but if not, you're not really missing out. Now that we've got the review out of the way, let's put these guys on feet and see how they look. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Alphaedge 4D and whether you'd like to grab a pair for yourself, so make sure to leave those comments in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.